Okay, so now it's time to move on to the actual wiring. And you can see that's all set to go now. Now there's going to be 6 switches. The regular switches for each individual function. When pushed, they're going to light up blue because I like the blue, like warp blue. And this is going to be, speaking of warp, for the differentiating between the impulse and the warp drive. So what we got to do is we're going to get the lights, switches, into the thing. It needs to be drilled into the surface. So let me show you. I'm going to be using, this is actually from a door kit that I had gotten, a door lock kit with the jigs. You got the larger jig for the doorknob and a smaller jig is going to be for the, you can see it right there, for the little latch that comes out the side of the door. Well, that's what I'm going to use to drill, because you can see, again, I apologize, I'm holding my camera. It goes in and it'll fit nicely. So I'll be able to drill using the jig. It'll be a perfect hole, and I can hot glue the switches into place. And I also have the metal rod. Now I did get a hollow one that I was going to use when originally I was going to run the wires through the bottom of the ship. But what I'm going to do now is, what I want to do is, I'm going to have an alligator clip, a male and a female, on both ends, coming out of the ship and one coming out of the base. Because I want to be able to disconnect the ship. It's for easy transport. So this is the solid one, and that's the one I came with the kit. So I'm going to get it started and I'm going to drill. And once everything is drilled, I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so I drilled a hole and I just put the the pole temporarily in, just to show you. That's not the solid one. So what I want to do is, I just want to see how it looks. It looks pretty good. I measured it, it's centered, it's where I need to be. I don't want to push it all the way through now to get it anchored, because I still have to drill the switch holes. We got 6 of those. So what I'm going to have to do is, I'll take the pole back out and we'll do the 6 drill holes for the switches, and I'll show you what it looks like when all the holes are drilled and it's ready to be wired. Okay, almost halfway done with the holes for the switches. This is going to be a big problem now with all the debris that's going in between the film that's printed and the clear glass, the plexiglass. I'm going to have to figure out how maybe I can frost it or do something to cover it up and just leave the logo for the movie clear. But I'm going to have to figure out how to do something. But I've got to let the drill cool off and the drill bit. You can see they look like little wine corks that comes out, and they're going to be the perfect size for the switches to just drop in. So when the drill's cooled, I'll finish drilling out that piece and I'll do the other 3 and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so the drill had a time to recharge, and I finished drilling all the holes. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to clean up this awful mess, and then we can start wiring. I'm going to start wiring the switches. Probably wire the switches individually, put some nice long tails on, and then glue them into the holes so I can work on them from the bottom. But first, I got to get this cleaned up because this looks terrible right now. Alright, so another miserable update. Another one of my mistakes. When I put this in, and the clear plastic was over it. I didn't take into account when I drilled, everything went underneath. Then I just wasn't able to do it. I wasn't able to clean it. So I removed it. I'm going to clean it up, and I'm going to put another coat of the finish on, and on a coat on the inside, and I'm going to just have to get the film and the glass, and what I'm going to do, well, the plexiglass, and I'm going to glue it down into place, and then I'll just lie the plexiglass over and glue that to the film, because the other way it just wasn't working. I couldn't get the stuff out and it looked terrible. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to give this a coat, and I'll show you guys what that looks like. Alright, what I did was I brought the bulbs in, and I brought them just a little bit under the surface on the other side, and I ran them through the bottom, and what I'm doing now is I'm hot gluing them into place, just to make sure that they don't move and they're permanently fixed. And when that's all done, I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so what I did was I wired all the lights into the bottom, and I just wanted to make sure they worked. So temporarily put them all together and hooked them up to the power supply. And you can see they work. So what I'm going to do now is I'm probably going to put some LED bulbs on the inside of the area where the motion picture movie posters section is going to be lit, and I'll see how that looks. I might do it with an LED light strip. It depends on how it looks, but let's try the bulbs first. Alright, let me give you a bit of an update what I did. In the opening where the movie poster is going to go, I wanted to light, and as you guys know, I was talking about putting LED strips in. The problem with that is I'd have to solder the strips, and it'd just be easier to use the pre-wired lights. These are 5mm clear LED white lights. So what I did was I hot glued them on the inner part of the frame, and I'll temporarily wire everything, and this is going to be on one switch. This is only going to be for the base. So the base lighting is going to have the frame and the movie poster. The switches, the individual switches, will have their own lighting. So this is going to be for the switch for just the base. So if the ship is off, the base can light and the lights can shine on the ship like in space dock. So let me hook it up really quickly, temporarily, and I'll show you what it looks like lit up. Okay, so what I did was, it's all connected. This is going to be for one of the switches, and it's going to be the base lights. This is where the movie poster is going to go. And you can see the frame is lit. Now the piece that I had printed out on a clear paper, that didn't work out nowhere near as, well, as good as I had hoped. The clear paper is actually too clear. So what I was thinking is using photo paper and trying it on a different piece of photo paper. Let me put a regular piece of paper in here and I'll show you guys the basic light up scheme. So this is a regular piece of paper. You can see the way it's going to shine through. Again, the LED light tape probably would have been a better option, but it would have involved more soldering. Instead, this is just regular piece of printing paper, just cut to fit really roughly. Just see how it would look through. I'm probably going to end up still going with the transparent film. The last one that I did, I had to take apart when I broke the plex that was inside, only because there was so much, in between the layers from the drilling. I just couldn't keep it like that. It looked absolutely awful. So what I did, I can show you the piece of the new PEX. Where did I put it? Here it is. I had got it. And let's see if it'll go in. So actually, with the plexiglass on it, it's not too bad for the regular paper. Maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to see how it looks with both. I'll do the transparent film, and I'll try the photo paper for the background and see how it looks. Because with this, you can see it shining through. With the transparent film, it was so thin that everything just came blaring through. So I don't know if that's going to be too thin. Well, this is it. So what I got to do now is I have to wire that mess in the back, and I have to wire it to the switch, and that's going to be for the base. So when that mess of wire is all nice and neat and soldered to the switch, I'll show you what that looks like. Alright, so I've drilled out the holes for the switches. I put the hole for the center pole for the model to sit on, and I had to put a hole to run the wires for the alligator clip. So that should be all set, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fit the switch into the hole. I used a 5/8 opening, so let's see how it fits. Alright, so the holes themselves weren't big enough. So I used my rotary tool, and I got the point where the switches kind of fit in. You don't want to force it because I don't want to crack the optics. But as you can see on the sides, they have these tin little clips. When you push it in, they kind of contract a little bit and then they pop and it locks into place. So you don't want to get it to the point where that won't work. But that's all set now. All the holes are all set. Got the opening for the pipe, and we got the hole for the wires to go through for the alligator clip. So that's all set. What we can do now is drill the holes to secure it to the base, and drill the hole in the base for the power supply. Coming right along. Alright, what else did I do? Well, I put, because this is going to be plugged in, I wanted the power supply to be removable as well. So I drilled in, and the thickest drill bit that I had. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim the plastic on this down just a little bit, and to get it nice and secure, and I'll hot glue it into place. Then the base will be ready. Okay, so I shaved it off a bit, and it'd be left out about a 1/4 of an inch, but that's okay. I'm happy with that. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll hot glue that into place, and I'll secure it. And I can just touch up the sides with a little bit of paint. You won't even know that that's there. Okay, so I hot glued the power supply into place, and while that sets, we're ready to go ahead and fit the switches into the plexiglass plate. Okay, so I started to solder the wires. Let me show you my little diagram. And I'm going to do this for all 6 of the switches. I figure if I do this before I put them into the plexiglass, it'll be easier because the wood is thick in the base, so I won't be able to have access once they're in there. So anyway, I'm going to do it this way, pre-wire all the switches and then put them into the plexiglass and then pass them through the base. Alright, so the wires are all soldered to the switches, and they're all set to be fed into the base for the final wiring of the base, that is.